Welcome to the SKG Podcast. I am Khush, and this is the CEO series, where we speak to the leaders across the education sector to uncover the real challenges and opportunities of running a registered training organization. In this series, we're not just talking compliance, we're talking leadership, the vision, the strategy, and the resilience it takes to build organizations that truly deliver quality training outcomes while balancing governance, growth, and student success. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Clio Zheng, CEO of Focus Language School. Many of you will know Focus as an established ELICOS provider within the industry. But what's more exciting is that Clio and her team have recently secured the RTO registration to deliver CHC qualifications as well. It's a big milestone and a perfect story for us to start with the first episode of our CEO series. So let's just join together to welcome Clio. Hi, Clio.
Hello, Coach. Thank you very much for having me. So, just a bit of introduction of myself. I came to Australia in 2006 as an international student. So I've walked path of similar paths of our students, finished my university degrees, and then was able to find a job at Melbourne University. So worked in the tertiary education sector for about 10 years, mainly on international engagement and policy advocacy and things like that. So before COVID, I came across this opportunity to run a ELICOS language school, which has always been something that's very close to my heart, given my background, my educational background especially. I used to study at a foreign language school in China, in Shanghai, before I came to Australia. And I could personally feel the benefit of having sufficient English skills, how that helped me, to be sort of successful, hopefully, as an international student in Australia.
Perfect. That's a very lovely story, Cleo. And you reminded us of many international students who come here and they have a vision of making it big, and you're definitely one of them. So
Thank you.
let's talk a little bit more about what does Focus exactly stand for, and what makes it so unique in the ELICOS Cricos space for Focus.
Yeah, I guess within our school, the name Focus really reflects who we are and what we stand for. For us, it means that we need to be future ready and offering pathways and skills that can really prepare students, not just for their immediate studies, but also for their life in Australia. Because as everybody knows, ELICOS is the first stepping stone for the whole learning journey in Australia. It also means like we provide one-on-one care, and we're quite proud of ourselves on the level of individual attention and support that we give each and every single student. We're also very community-driven and believe in building a strong sense of belonging, which is especially important for international students because they're far away from home. They're in a kind of unfamiliar environment, so we're trying to provide this warmth and support for our students. Our programs are also designed to offer some unique pathways, for example, into local high schools and also now local primary schools, vocational educations, universities, and many other pathways. And we do this while we try to stay student-centric, student-focused. So every decision we make is grounded in what's best for our students' interests. Yeah.
Perfect. That's very refreshing to know that, Cleo, because I think in today's environment, not just from the compliance point of view, but I think with all the uncertainty around, it's very important to keep the students in the center and students at the heart of the organization for sure. So what exactly inspired you to look towards the vocational side and to get into the wet sector and starting to deliver the CHC qualifications? What was the inspiring factor for you?
Yeah. I guess it's pretty similar to how we started with ELICOS delivery. Like for example, with ELICOS, we don't just teach English in isolation. It's not just about the language, we have to integrate like academic skills, cultural awareness, and even sometimes subject or occupation based English. Especially through the programs that we offer for our young learners. For the vocational space, the reason why we wanted to get into that space is we were thinking about what kind of skills that we can offer for future students, like to really help them like benefit from what the society, what the community would need, and also on the other hand, to help the community, with any like skill shortages or any real challenges in the workforce.
Yeah.
So and the reason why we chose the CHC qualification is actually, again, started with my personal experience. So our grandparents were getting older and older, and we were looking at, maybe transitioning them into, aged care, like facility-based care. And we spent some time visiting different centers, trying to find out the best solution for them, which one would suit them the most. And throughout those visits, we noticed a few sort of common issues, let's just say, yeah. And sometimes, like, the staff turnovers are pretty high, and then they're also pretty under a lot of pressure. They're operating like under stress, and things are sometimes rushed. And so we were just trying to think, maybe we can help with that. And after speaking with some industry experts, including, for example, people who were working as, aged care workers, or people who are running the aged care facilities or even home care services, we realized that there is a real demand in the workforce to have more well-trained, qualified staff to join this industry. Yeah.
No, that definitely gives a very good background to how you organically come through and find out where you want to step in. And so you've already been through the ELICOS renewal as well as the RTO registration application. We'll break it down into two parts because you've covered that in the last 2 years. Just to give a little bit of background, how was your experience first for the renewal of the ELICOS Cricos? How was your overall experience? What sort of timelines did you experience as part of that? Will not go too much into detail, but if you can just, for the sake of our listeners, if you can share your experience about the renewal first, and then we'll get to the RTO registration because that's more recent, so you'll remember that more fresh. So we'll touch base
Sure.
on that. Yeah.
Okay. Firstly, I just a tiny piece of advice for the renewal. It's always good to allow sufficient time for the process. For example, you have to really think about when your registrations is expiring, and you have to plan for at least, like, I would suggest 3 to 6 months before that to launch the renewal application to allow sufficient time for it to be processed. For us, it was pretty straightforward at that time because our student record was all up to date, and we just had to provide the information that was asked for, and then that was it.
No, that sounds very easy, but I'm sure it is just because there's a lot of work that goes in the background before we
Yeah,
get
that's
to
true.
that stage. But if you have to give some advice, if we just focus on the ELICOS Cricos, what are the things that you think you did right, which helped you to achieve your renewal re-registration in a very quick manner and in a very smooth manner? So, what are the things that you believe went right in your case?
Okay. I think what went right was our team, our staff are very well trained in student record keeping and the student management system, and also like it's not just for certain staff. For example, not one person who's responsible for everything. That's just not possible because you have to make sure that compliance is actually embedded in every single step of your operation. So let's say from admission, like even before that, when students' inquiries were received, we just have to make sure all the staff they understand the requirements for the specific areas, and then to start gathering information and keep the right records and things like that. So it will really help with the final information collection when it comes to that.
Sure. And I also know that you also deliver the HSP courses as well. So, what's your
Yeah.
experience like in dealing with the younger students? What are the challenges and what are the things that you've learned through that curve?
Sure. So HSP stands for High School Preparation, just for providers or listeners who are not familiar with the terminology.
Yes.
Because the targeted cohort will be students between like about 12 years old to 17 years old, so they will be underage students. We really have to pay attention to the welfare arrangements because that's that's probably even more should be more prioritized than the academic progress or academic excellence. So, for example, we just need to think about, who are they traveling with? Are they going to stay here by themselves, or do we need to, is one of their parent or immediate family members going to accompany them? If not, then the responsibility sort of resides with the school as their legal guardian. So we really have to think about, okay, are they going to be placed in homestay, or maybe it's a nominated homestay by the family? But we still have to do the due diligence and to make sure that the persons appointed are the right people to look after our students. Yeah.
Sure. And Cleo, if we move on to the RTO registration side of things, because you completed your audit in within the new standards after 1st of July this year,
Yeah.
what was your experience like with the new standards and the whole audit process if we have to break it down? Because I think that's one of the burning topics right now for any
Yeah.
RTO. So I think it'll be interesting to know how was your overall experience.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, like you said, we just completed the whole uh, application, like the final steps within the
Yeah.
new standards. However, when we prepared for our application, it was still under the previous standards.
Yeah.
Even though if you look at the numbering system, the names of each area, that might seem a little bit different, but the essence of it remains the same. So it's
Yeah.
just like, yeah, how you group your concepts or how you group your work areas, maybe under the new structure. So we spend a lot of the time trying to understand the new standards and to break it down to each and single element. And that's how we reach this conclusion. So luckily we didn't have to do like a whole lot of new things. So, but just to sort of fit the existing content or existing application into the new framework. And from there, we identified the key areas. For example, one of them would be governance and compliance systems. So to ensuring our policies, procedures, and the quality assurance mechanisms are all aligned with the new system. That did take a little bit of work, and with the support of Khush's team as well. And then the second part is the training and assessment strategies. So, using the right assessment tools, making sure the resource is sufficient, and we always have to bear in mind, what we are like the demand, then the real need for our student cohort, and also what does it mean, to as a vocational trainer. So yeah, so that's for that part. And then for the and the last major area was the capability building and our staffing. So there
Mm.
are a few like new topics or new priority areas within the new standard. For example, making sure that we can, the organization is ready for diversity, and we can cater for different kind of students or students
Mm.
from different backgrounds, or
Yeah.
even if needed, how do we engage with First Nation students and things like that. So luckily, as an ELICOS provider, we have a little bit of experience in that area, especially in terms of cultural diversity and ethnic diversity, and
Yeah.
also, of course, gender diversity as well.
Yeah.
So we just need to continue with our staff training, professional development, to add the First Nation people element into it as well. Because
Yeah.
as a prior course provider, we didn't have to consider that in the past.
Yes, that's correct. I think even for the RTOs, it's pretty new to making sure that they've got an engagement plan for the First Nations people, and that is implemented and sort of communicated throughout the staff, because it just doesn't stop at just having that inclusivity within the learner cohort or something. It also means, how do we engage with First Nations people? How do we have them heard in different aspects of the RTO, and what engagement plan and what staffing um, capabilities and plans are in place to make the staff aware of that requirement. So
Yeah,
no,
absolutely.
great. Yeah. So now you've achieved the RTO registration, and I think the reality hits when you get the approval. People think that it's a long road, and it's a long pathway to get the approval. But I always advise everyone that save your energy, because the real work actually starts once you get the approval, because you have to get hands on and get going with the real groundwork. So how does it feel like after getting the approval and coming to the wet side of things? What sort of challenges are you facing in the marketing side, in the international CRICOS side with the visas? Because that again is a very important topic. You know, uh, whether the providers are getting the visa approvals, and where are we getting the student numbers from? How is it
Mm.
financially and business strategy wise? How is it all stacking up for you?
Yeah. One thing I have to say is that ELICOS and VET are completely like two different cup of teas. So, for example, with ELICOS, we were dealing with students from all ages, basically. And what we had to really focus on is to provide them with the experience, as the first stepping stone into Australian learning lives, and also to, especially for our younger students, have to
Yeah.
provide them with a school-like environment, to help with the transitioning, and also even with our adult students, we pretty much focused on their like how do you call it, like life skill building as well, to help them getting used to, okay, how do you get things done in Australia, what, because all the systems are different, from their home
Mhm.
country, like the
Yeah.
OSHC system, the like how do you find jobs, and what are your rights even as tenants, everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, everything. So, and and because language learning is very intensive, like it goes on almost every day,
Mm.
we also try to make it engaging enough so students are really enjoying it, not, just sitting in the classroom because they have to. But when it comes to vocational, we realize it's a completely different kind of atmosphere that we have to create. It's more about the job skill. It's more about how to get students job ready, how to give them practical skills that they can start using as soon as they're in the work placement or work
Yeah.
environment. So it's less fun, I would say, but more professional in a
Or
way.
challenge. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then when it comes to, let's say, the visas and yeah, the challenge is definitely there. But if possible, I guess maybe we can also look at the domestic market as well, because there are a lot of demands for, even for the domestic students to get new skills, if not
Yeah.
the whole qualification, maybe some competency units and things like that. So hopefully that can help all the RTOs diversify a little bit.
Mhm. No, definitely. I think it's been I always look at the brighter side. So we're better in 2025 as opposed to what the situation was in 2024. It looked
Mm,
like that everything was kind of, falling apart, and but every change is difficult. Every transition is difficult, and I think once we get on the other side of the curve, things will start settling down, and it'll start looking better at the end of it. So, Cleo,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, looking back at the whole transition, what would be your biggest lessons as a leader within the education industry? What are the, I think leadership is the key to maintain the culture of compliance within the
Mm-hmm.
RTOs. It's not something, as you've rightly said, that when you got your CRICOS renewal, just because you had everything embedded within your systems, it was such a smooth process for you, which can turn into a turmoil for any organization financially, time wise, resources wise. So, what is it? That the leaders of RTO, specifically the CEOs and PEOs of RTOs, should be focusing on and should be doing within their organizations to set their organization and to set their people for success within the education industry.
Mm. Um, I want to share maybe a comment that I've heard from different stakeholders in this industry since, in the last 3 or something years, is that yes, international education is, let's say, a business, but education business should never be treated the same as other kind of businesses.
Yeah.
So yes, we do have to consider the operational side of the organization, financial viabilities and everything. That's the key. But education should always remain as a centerpiece, as a top priority, and the quality of education, the quality of student support, should always remain in the center, always. And also, thinking about that, running an education, the education entity, education provider, is all about people.
Yeah.
Is all about how you manage your team, how
Yeah.
to get a good team together, to get dedicated team members, who understand how
Mm.
the importance of student experience, importance of education qualities, and also who are prepared to dedicate themselves into it.
Yeah.
And on the other side, yeah, when I say it's all about people, of course, the student experience, how to engage with them, how to look after them. That's the real, like the key elements that we have to focus on. So yeah, it's a people business at the end of the day. So the leadership, everything is all about how to build your team, how to bond with them, and also to make sure that your team can work smoothly together as well.
No, very, very rightly said, Cleo, because I also remember a quote from one of the, Bollywood movies I would quote here. There was a saying that if you're passionate about something and if you're working towards your passion, and if you focus on the people within that business or within that passion journey, the numbers would follow, the numbers would chase you. Because if you're focusing on people and if you're gathering the right kind of people with you, and if you're motivating those people
Yeah,
to be equally passionate about your goals and your vision, then you create a crowd of people who think alike, and they share the same passion, and then they spread that to your learners, to the community that you're exploring in, and then automatically from the word of mouth, that community itself is going to bring you more numbers and more learners. So the word
Yeah.
does go around, and I've seen that happening wherever. It takes time because first to identify the right people, then to train the people in the right manner, and then to have that connection and sense of belonging with those people. It does take time to build the right practice and the right culture. But once
Hmm.
you've cracked that, I think it gets easier to sort of lead from there, from that
Yeah,
point on. Yeah.
absolutely. And they'll become your greatest asset for your organization.
So, with Focus Clio, what are the plans? Where do you see yourself moving from here? And what is your vision for Focus and within the new era of the RTO industry? It's good that you've straight away stepped into the new side of the RTO industry rather than, going from old standards to the new standards, because sometimes it's just better to start from the scratch and start fresh with the fresh system to avoid the confusion with what was sitting in the old standards and in the 2015 standards. So how do you see Focus in the next, say, 2 to 5 years, and what do you plan to do?
Okay. So I guess with this, like the choice of CHC qualifications, we've sort of identified the area that we want to be focusing on, which would be in general, like about health and healthcare.
Yeah.
And we have also developed new English courses, for example, the OET preparation, to further support future students with that, especially coming from that background. And in the future, we're looking at maybe expanding our, the courses that we can offer into more, like to get a few more sort of health related qualifications or units on our scope. Um, yeah, and we just probably go from there.
Perfect. No, thank you so much, Cleo, for sharing your journey with us today. And it's incredible to see how you've built a strong ELICOS Cricos college, and then to transition into the RTO space, and then again on top of it, getting into the CHC qualifications. It's all a very commendable journey throughout. And I've known you for so many years now, because we started our journey together when you
Yeah.
were in process of acquiring Focus, and this whole relationship has turned into a very close friendship also. So I do value that very close to my heart. And for all our listeners, this has been the first episode for our CEO series on the SKG podcast. Stay tuned to listen to more CEOs talking about their journey, their experiences, and how they're feeling about the current changes that are happening and with the transition of the new standards. Stay tuned, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Kush.